Boxing King Media in association with Boxro out here in Sheffield, next to a historical sign with Dominic Ingle. Brendan Ingle Way, Dom.
Yeah, Brendan Ingle Way. It used to be called something else, you know what? I can't even remember what it's called. I think it was Tyler Street back in the day, but you know, after he died, they renamed it Brendan Ingle Way, and it's a nice tribute to him. And he'll always be here, I think.
Obviously, you must be proud of your dad's achievements, but having a road name after him is quite a big statement. That doesn't really happen, does it?
No, but you know, considering the time he spent around here, he swept the streets, he built Winterbank up, you know, put it on the map, and from such a small place, produced so many world boxing champions, which you know is world renowned. So, you know, not only did he put Winterbank on the map, he put Sheffield on the map, really, in the boxing sense.
Definitely. And obviously, as I mentioned last time, you know, I was checking the numbers earlier on from all these interviews we've done over the last couple of months. The views on YouTube are like well over 1 million. Social media posts, like we're talking 3-4 million. We need them people to subscribe. If all of you subscribed, Boxing King Media would probably be the biggest YouTube channel in the UK. So guys, please do subscribe. Let's get straight into it, Dom. Appreciate your time straight after obviously a big fight weekend. Just want to start off talk about obviously Barry's fight with Maxi Hughes. One of the first things I want to ask you is obviously Barry didn't do any media in the week running up to the fight. After the press conference, he left straight away. Any particular reason behind that?
I think he just wanted to focus on you know, on the fight and you know, actually doing all that media. What does it actually, you know, influence or bring to the table, really, unless you get somebody who knows what they're talking about. Sometimes, you know, I've found in recent times that, you know, there's so many people doing all these interviews and they're not really getting lots of views, and it's not, you know, there's only a couple of channels I actually watch what of any interest, and really I think Barry's looked into that as well. I'm thinking, why waste your time when you're trying to make the weight or when you've got to rehydrate? You don't want to be hanging around talking nonsense to people who aren't, you know, really getting the views or it's really going to benefit you.
Thank you for that. So let's get into it. Fight Maxi Hughes. How did you think he was going to win the fight? You know, what kind of plan did you guys set?
The plan was always to, you know, to outbox Maxi Hughes because, you know, obviously Barry's very capable of doing that, and I thought he did do that. If the knockout came, you know, it would have happened, but it was never the plan to try and knock him out. It was always the plan to outbox him and control him, which I think he did. And I just think, you know, with the help of the referee being biased towards Maxi, he kind of made that difficult for Barry to do that. Every time Barry got any kind of shots off, Maxi clung on to him.
And obviously going into the fight as well, did you feel that you needed to make a statement in this fight? You know, you weren't going to get any favours. I think we spoke about it before, that obviously Barry's going... Is that experience of being the away fighter with Josh Warrington where you felt he won, but obviously some people said he didn't make a big enough statement. Did you think about that going into it?
Yeah, you do, but at the end of the day, look, Max is not a massive name, and you know, really Barry isn't, even though he's been the world champion. You know, it's really a fight what probably went under the radar. But you'd always know, even though Barry was the favourite by the bookies, when you're in the away corner, it's always kind of, you know, heading towards to fit the narrative that the guy who's the champion wins. And I think with Maxi's story, like coming, you know, a good couple of wins over the last couple of fights, he's like the Cinderella man. It won't really be particularly good. Somebody like Barry who got knocked out bad in his last fight and then moving up to weight divisions beating him. It's like, well, it kind of whitewashes all that out about what Maxi's done. So it don't fit the narrative really, does it? So, you know, I'm disappointed with the result, but, you know, I still think that Barry outboxed him and did enough work to outbox him. All this nonsense about, you know, you've got to rip the title away and, you know, world champions 3 or 4 rounds going into the fight before they start. It's just a load of nonsense. A fight is a fight. It's who lands the more shots. You know, and who wins the fight by doing that. Not like, you know, you've got to rip it away from them. You don't. You just have to beat them by boxing.
And obviously, I've looked at the social media reaction. I've seen some highlights as well. Most people are basically saying it could have gone either way. No one's really saying it was a robbery. But one of the things I did pick up from watching the fight and what the commentators were saying was Barry didn't really use his right hand enough. Was there any particular reason behind that? You know, what's your thoughts on that?
Not particularly. I mean, he just probably didn't see the opportunity to get it in as much as he did. I think at the times when Barry did let some shots go, you know, Maxi tied him up. And the referee was on Barry's case from the off, and I think Maxi made a meal out of a lot of situations when he, you know, purportedly got hit low, you know, stepping back and pointing out to the referee, or Warrington's dad shouting, you know, Barry standing on his toes from the first round. And when I made light of, not made light, but when I made a reference to Maxi holding, the referee turned around and warned me straight away and threatened to throw me out of the corner after 2 rounds. It's ridiculous. You know, Warrington's dad was free to shout at the referee all he wanted, but as soon as I did, he was on my case. So you kind of know how it's going to go. But even at the end of the fight, Maxi came over to Barry and said congratulations. He might deny that now, but he did. I think he even knew that he got beat. And, you know, it's like I was convinced that Barry won that fight quite comfortably by 3 to 4 rounds.
Yeah, I heard you shouting in the corner saying you're miles up, especially after that point deduction. What are your thoughts on that point deduction?
Look, you know, if you look at that video, Maxi Hughes has got Barry's right arm locked between his arm. He's got his right arm over the back of Barry's left arm, and Barry's got his head down, and Maxi's actually coming in with his head down, and Barry just puts his head down below him so he can't get his head in the way. Maxi's actually causing a foul, and Barry's trying to stop that from happening by getting held up and putting his head down. And Barry's not even really moved his head, and Max is throwing himself back as if he's being headbutted, but he never got headbutted, and he got a point took off. It's pantomime, really, and it's sad that in every opportunity that Maxi got, I think even Barry hit him with a body shot, what actually caught him, he stepped back and said he got it low. It's like, you know what I mean, he's kind of blagged his way through that, hasn't he, really?
You know, whilst we're on the subject of like illegal moves, etc., I want to show you this video. I don't know if you've seen it. You know, Maxi Hughes put it out this morning, you know, suggesting that Barry was pinching him in the fight. So let me just show you the video.
I've been nipped on the arm for 12 rounds. Tactic I've never heard of, never seen. I can tell you, it really hurts. Well,
it's funny you should say that. I mean, I've seen that with fighters when they've gone across the back of the ropes or whatever, but you know, he complained to the referee about Barry standing on his toes. He complained to the referee about getting hit low. He complained to the referee about the head. But why, if that was the case, why didn't he turn around and say to the referee, he's nipping me? Why didn't he say that? Why didn't he show him the marks? If it was, you know, I never saw that in the fight. You didn't see the marks on him in the fight. So what is he doing? Trying to justify why, you know, he deserves to win by putting that out. Realistically, he got the decision. You know, for me, whether he won the fight is debatable. I thought Barry won the fight. Why does he find it necessary to go on social media and show people that? Do you know what I mean? It's like, what? So you deserve to win the fight because Barry was cheating by nipping you? It just seems a bit far-fetched, really. You know, and I think, you know, looking at that fight with Barry and Maxi, I wouldn't be confident with that fight of either of them going into a big fight next. I mean, obviously Barry came off a bad knockout. He's gone up 2 weight divisions. There's always going to be a bit of apprehension, and I'd want a different, you know, another fight for Barry at lightweight before I would decide putting him in a big fight. But Maxi is going to get thrown into a big fight, what he's not going to be ready for, because Barry's probably the best level of opponent he's ever had, and he struggled with Barry. He wasn't decisive, it wasn't convincing. But he will take a big money fight, and it'll probably be his last fight. You know, he's never going to turn around and say, I didn't win that fight, because fighters don't. But you know, as a fighter, and you know, as a trainer, you've got to be realistic. That I would find it very hard if I was in that position with Maxi as a trainer. I'd have to be very careful with the next move, because, you know, he's probably 1 fight away from getting a bad beating. And I'd be very cautious, but you know, he probably at this stage hasn't earned a lot of money out of boxing, and he probably needs to get a decent payday. Barry's had good paydays, he's earned some good money, he's looked after his money, it's invested. You know, I wouldn't take a big money fight for Barry unless I was convinced he was going to be in a good place, he was going to win it, and he was going to make money out of it. I would certainly won't put him in a fight where he's going to get levelled out. So that's what you've got to be cautious of in boxing. You know, they're both 32 years old, they're not spring chickens. If you look at Shakur Stevenson and Gervonta Davis, 25 and 27, you know, they're dangerous fighters for an older fighter, and you've got to be very cautious going into them fights. So I'll be interested to see what he's going to put him in with next. You know, it'd be an interesting thing, but complaining about nipping, it's like, you know, what's that all about?
I've got to ask you, on the nipping itself, as a quick answer, did Barry nip him, and was that part of tactics or anything like that?
Not at all. He didn't nip him. I just don't know where Maxi's got that from. Maybe him and Josh have had their heads together, because they kind of seem to got to be in a bonnet about him, don't they? Josh Warrington. He's always got issues with Barry. and I noticed he was in the corner on Saturday night, holding the belt, staring over at me like he's going to do his Space Raider thing on me. But like I say, it's I can't understand why he's come out with that video. I don't Barry's never nipped anybody in a fight.
Was it raised in the fight?
No, I'm saying he never turned around. He never turned around and said to the referee, did he? He points out to the referee about the head and getting hit low, but he never turned around and said, which you would have done. You turned around and said, if you're getting nipped, you would have turned around and said it, wouldn't you? You definitely would have said, if it's hurting that much, why didn't you say it?
Thank you. And just a quick word on Josh Warrington. We interviewed him after the fight, and also kind of leads me on to Barry's next move. I'll just show you what Josh had to say. I just want to get your thoughts on that.
It's hard. The fact is, because we can make it look so bad, no one's going to really say, yeah, I want to fight him. And the way that he conducts himself in like the build-up to the fights as well, the bad mouth and stuff, it's like, if you're going to be a bad guy, you need to back it up. If you're going to be a bad guy, you need to be entertaining. If you're going to be a bad guy, you need to come and look to it. People, it's kept on talking about it. He's going to wear Max, he's going to do this and that, but he hardly threw his backhand, did he? So, he's not a fan's favourite, so that's always hard. Really, is he going to be an opponent? Well, people say, well, I don't want to need him, so we won't defend against him. So, is it back to leisure centres? I don't know. I really don't know.
I think, Josh has done remarkably well for his limited ability. He had a great fight against Frampton, that was about it. He beat a faded Lee Selby, and he struggled with Barry. A fight he didn't win, but same again, the crowd was behind him as a ticket seller. It's more lucrative for promoters to be backing people like Josh Warrington. His last fight, it just shows you, Kiko Martinez, obviously he knocked out Barry, and he broke Josh's jaw in two places. He was far from a spent force. In my opinion, Josh was probably 1 or 2 fights away from the end of his career on his last couple of performances. So, hopefully he's made some money. He probably just needs to concentrate on himself more instead of having a bee in his bonnet about Barry. And as far as Barry's concerned, the one thing with Barry is Barry will get looked after. It'll be the right fights, because that's always the forefront as a trainer. And obviously about the Ingle gym, it's always about looking after the fighters. Money comes second in boxing, and you need good people around you. And we've done that with a lot of fighters. We've had a lot of success. And I'm realistic. I'm never going to talk anybody into fights for money. Boxing's more about that, and it just shows you over the past with the fighters we've looked after and where we've got fighters that fighters do. Sometimes fighters are their own worst enemy. You've got to save them from themselves.
And just moving on from that now, I saw you was on the phone to Kell Brook as I was coming into the gym today. He's coming into sparring a bit, and is there something you want to tell us?
Well, he phoned me up and he went, I can't believe it. I've had people phoning me, they can't make their mind up about that fight the weekend with Barry. He goes, but, I thought he'd won it by 3 or 4 rounds, and then I'm hearing people saying it were close. And I went, well, Kell, boxing. I says, people are easily influenced. I goes, boxing's about scoring and landing more punches is what Barry did. All right, he wasn't decisive, he didn't knock him out. I says, that's what you do. I says, Barry hasn't got that kind of power, but he says he's got the fire in his belly for another fight, and he's had certain promoters onto him, wanting to make fights. And he asked me what I thought, and I said to him, Kell, listen, you've got plenty of money, you've made a fortune. You've probably never lived up to what you should have done. You've probably never achieved what you should have done. Because you could have been in bigger fights and done more, but you've made a fortune. I says, if you've got the fire in your belly that you still want to hurt people, I said, you want to fight, do it. I said, you certainly don't want to be doing it for the money. You don't need the money. I says, but if a fighter gets your adrenaline going, that really gets you up for it, I says, well, take that fight. Because I think he's been offered, 3 or 4 opponents. I says, pick the opponent, the one who gets your adrenaline flowing. I says, and, be training and see how you go. If you feel the urge, then we'll see where we go. But I certainly don't need you to fight again.
Yeah, Luke, I want some keys.
And you certainly don't need to fight again. So make sure it's for the right reason. It's because you want to fight, because you want to do it, not because people want you to do it. I mean, the Khan fight was a great spectacle. It was a great night. It put a lot of demons to bed for you. And, it was a great spectacle. I says, and, we've got to be realistic. So only make the fights, what get the juices flowing. Look at Floyd Mayweather. you know, boxing exhibitions, knocking out stiffs in China or Japan or wherever it is, and making a fortune and doing it, you know, easy, you know, smart moves. Boxing's a dangerous game. So, you know, we'll see what Kelly's coming in tonight. He's been training for the last couple of weeks. And when you think about it, you know, there's not a great deal happening in British boxing to excite people anymore. We had a great fight with Joyce at the weekend, you know, and realistically, apart from the Joshua Usyk fight, you know, a couple of months ago, the last big fight was Kell against Amir Khan. The arena was packed, the atmosphere was electric. And that's what you need for British boxing. It seems to be dipping a little bit at the minute.
Can I just ask you what fights you at Kell is being offered? Are you able to talk about them?
I think somebody mentioned Liam Smith or maybe the winner of Conor Benn and Eubank. But I don't know the exact details. It's just been mentioned. A few people have even asked me about it, and I said, well, I don't really know. I don't really get involved with that. Kell just comes to me and said, you know, when he does, he'll say, I've been offered this fight, or I'm thinking of doing that. What do you think? But he never really says that until he's had a kind of definite offer. So I said, for now, just keep yourself ticking over training. He's doing all right. He's enjoying training. He's having fun. But he knows if he's going to be in another fight, he's got to kind of step on the gas and get moving again. But, you know, we may be knowing the next 2 weeks.
And just moving on to Joyce, I'm just going to play an interview we did last week on how you predicted the fight to go.
Joyce with a couple of shots and get confident walking and then walk onto something. But look, it could be a late stoppage by Joyce late on. He's very good to the body. And you tend to find with heavyweights they don't really target that a lot, but Joyce is very good at that. He's got them long arms, he's big, and you know he'll wear Parker down. And I just think that Parker's going to make the mistake of trying to land a big shot, and he's going to get caught trying to do it.
That's what you said last week, and you've obviously seen the fight since. It pretty much played out like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, as a boxing trainer, you've got to be realistic. You've got to see things for what they are, and sometimes hype gets in the way. You know, influential people who think they know boxing start making opinions and comments, and people think, oh, you know, it must be right. I mean, we like trying to bring anybody in. I think Steve Bunce, who's a respected journalist and, you know, commentator, and I've known him a number of years. I love Steve, and he's a very knowledgeable guy. He even had Amir Khan to beat Kell. You know, and I just thought, you know, there's no ways Amir Khan going to beat Kell, and he didn't. And it's like with these fights, on paper, you know, that was Joyce's toughest fight. All right, we got Dubois, but Dubois was young and relatively inexperienced. Joyce is 36, he's a man. But Parker, realistically, a lot of people, and I think you'll agree, were saying, it's a big, you know, it's his biggest test, really. And a lot of people said to me, I think, you know, Joyce is going to come unravelled, he's going to come unstuck. And I said, no, I says, the thing is with Joyce, his strength is he looks so easy to hit. And, you know, people say, yeah, but, you know, if somebody hits him with proper power because he's so open, somebody who can punch, they're going to knock him out. But he's been hit by one of the biggest punchers, which was Dubois, and they were just bouncing off him. He's just got this strength about him, you know, the resilience, and it just reminds me of George Foreman back in the day. You know, shots used to bounce off George Foreman. I remember when he boxed Frazier, and he was hitting Frazier and lifting him off the ground. He was a wrecking machine, and nobody gave Ali a chance against George Foreman. And Muhammad Ali was coming to the end of his career, and he kind of rope-a-doped him, all-manned him, and talked Foreman out of him, let him burn himself, and then knocked him out. Joyce was 36. I mean, Parker was younger than him, and you know, he did exactly what I said. He drew him in, and you know, he got tempted, Parker. And realistically, the only way you're going to beat somebody like Joyce is to be smart, is to box and move and keep out in his way. I think it'll be an interesting fight if he ever fights Tyson, because Tyson's well aware of Joyce and his strengths and his toughness, and it's going to be a smart fighter like Tyson who's going to beat him. You're going to have to outbox him, keep out of his way. You can't engage with him because he can take a shot and he can punch. He's a big puncher, and that's when it's going to zap you, and you're going to get drawn in thinking you're going to land the shot, and all of a sudden, boom, and you're done. And that's what happened with Parker at the weekend. You know, and I'm only interested in those type of fights. You're like, there's only a certain amount of fighters I follow, who I can comment on, and I follow Joyce, and I've seen, you know, I'm interested in that. There's a lot of other fighters you could ask me about, and I wouldn't be able to give you an opinion because I don't know enough about them, and I don't follow them. But the ones when I tend to get it right are the ones that I watch, and you know, it kind of leads you into a sense of false security. Joyce, very, very smart and very tough.
And you know, you mentioned Tyson there. Tyson said post-fight he feels Joyce beats everybody, including Anthony Joshua, apart from him and maybe not Deontay Wilder.
I think he would beat Deontay Wilder. A few fights ago, I wouldn't have said he would. But Deontay Wilder's had the stuffing knocked him out a little bit in his confidence. Tyson's very smart. And I think he's right in what he's saying. He will beat everybody. He will beat everybody. But it'll be an hard fight against Tyson because Tyson's well aware of the game he has to play with Joyce. You know, he has to be a very, very smart. It will be a Muhammad Ali versus George Foreman type of fight, only like 30, 40 years later or whatever.
And also, with regards to just wrapping up on Joyce, obviously he gets hammered on social media for being slow, pondersome, etc. But he takes it all in his stride. I spoke to him about this post-fight and he's not really bothered. Nothing seems to faze him. So just two questions on him. Like, how is he able to absorb so much? And he had no marks on his face at all. He took a lot of clean shots, no marks on his face, no cuts. And also, do you think people are like a bit clueless to kind of not appreciating the skill he's got? Because really, he was robbed of an Olympic gold medal as well.
Yeah, I mean, somebody said that they'd done a test on him or something and his bone density is like X amount, that it's like ridiculous, and that's why he can absorb them kind of shots. But some people just can look at Cole Froch over the years, you know, look at Chris Eubank Senior, how he could take shots. Yeah, I think it's only when Cole Froch took his eye off the ball with George Groves he got dropped that time. But apart from that, you know, I remember when he boxed for the world title, the first world title, and against the Canadian guy. Come on, who did he box for world title? Cole Froch.
Booty.
No. Dominic, it's like we've got brain damage, me and you. No, when he boxed for the world title, Cole Froch, when he won it, he beat Pascal.
Oh yeah, sorry, Pascal.
And I was at Nottingham Arena and they stood in the middle of the rink, and Pascal was a specimen in them days. He was muscular and strong and they were knocking lumps off each other. And, you know, Cole Froch could take a good shot. And same with Chris Eubank Senior. You know, remarkable chin. Even when he went up to box Cole Thompson, a cruiserweight. You know, it was only his eye damage what stopped the fight. He could take a shot, and some people have just got that ability to take shots. You know, so I don't know where it is with him, but who cares whether he's, you know, he hasn't, you know, it doesn't come across as much personality. You know, you're going to get a knockout with him, and that's what boxing, people want to see those. They want to see knockouts. They want to see, you know, people trading. And it was a brutal fight at the weekend. It was a brutal fight, but it was only ever going to go one way, and he utilised it well. He hit him down to the body, and then, you know, slowed him down, hit him to the chin and knocked him out. And like I say, you know, Parker was probably the best person on his resume.
Definitely. And with regards to Fury, I think he's given Anthony Joshua and his team an ultimatum today to sign the contract. I don't know if you've seen that or not. But the rumours are if AJ doesn't sign, he's going to fight Manuel Shah. And obviously there's been a lot of back and forth from Tyson. Do you think he'll be in for some stick if he fights Manuel Shah? Tyson?
Well, listen, he can only fight who we can fight, but I never really thought that fight was ever going to be viable for that date with Joshua and Tyson. I just don't think Joshua's in the right place. Promotion-wise, the ins and outs and the, you know, how it all works, I just don't see how it can work. So, you know, whether it's a smoke screen for something else, whether, you know, Anthony agreed to it or Eddie did or whatever, I have no idea why they did it and why they said it, if they'd no intention. So, it'll be interesting. But like I said, Tyson can only fight, you know, who else could he fight? I mean, it's not a great fight with Shah, but, you know, I don't know who else there is out there for Tyson to fight.
AJ put a rap video out yesterday basically saying, He makes a point that he's been fighting champions for 7 years straight, and nobody else is doing that. So hopefully, there's a chance he may.
Well, I'll go on record now and say, listen, we're in September, coming to the end of September. It's supposed to be happening in December. Listen, if things are going to get done, people do it quick. You know what I mean? I'll go back to when Kell Brook boxed Golovkin. That fight was made within about 10 days of Eubank pulling out. If they want to have the fights, they can have the fights. Forget about contracts and this, and you know they've basically got the templates of contracts in place. They know what they want and what they're agreeing to. It can be easily done. You know what I mean? It's, the legalities are just are other things. The purses wants to set out, it's easy enough. So you know it's just delaying tactics. And I don't honestly never thought that Joshua would take that fight against Tyson. I just can't see it.
Last question I want to ask you about is a YouTuber, Slim Albaher, who's a massive Prince Nassim fan. I showed you some videos off camera before. I think he's 4-0 with 4 knockouts. He's fighting in Sheffield on October the 15th on that YouTuber event. First, what do you think of him?
Well, do you know what? It's funny you should say that, because I think he's a Yemeni, isn't he? And my nephews are into YouTube and they watch everything. They say, look at this guy. He's like a very raw version of Naz, like orthodox. He's kind of got the power, but not the finesse. And I had a look at him, and you know what? He can bang. He has. The thing is, what you find with a lot of Yemeni kids, we've had a lot over the years. They've got this natural strength about them. I don't know where it is, but they're very, very
Lamb and rice.
Is that whatever it is? But they're very, very strong. Like Naz's brothers were strong, but they weren't as good at boxers as him. Some of them boxed, Ali and Nabil. They were physically strong. They weren't great boxers, but Naz had the combination of being a good fighter and strong as well. So it'd be interesting to see, and I've watched a few more of them, and I'll be going to that event, that YouTube event, to watch it. So it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, they seem to be causing waves, and he's not scared to get in the ring and have a punch up, is he?
No, I think there's potential. Let's say that you could get a KSI fight as long as he wins on the 15th. Yeah, I know you've seen KSI fight live before. If they were to fight each other, from what you've seen of both of them, how do you think that would go?
Well, KSI is when he boxed over in LA, it was a good fight. I mean, they both showed some right bottle, and they were knocking lumps off each other. But it's an interesting matchup, that, because I'd say he's a better fighter than KSI. But KSI's had a few fights now, and he's tough. He's a well-built fella. It'd be an interesting matchup, but there's every possibility he could win.
I think he wants to come down to the gym when he's here in a few weeks. So hopefully we can get that introduction done.
We could get out to the gym and show him how to flip the ropes. That's get that on the tape and show him how to do that. But it'll cause an interest in boxing in Sheffield, in Naz's hometown. A YouTube sensation. It will be interesting.
Definitely, Dom. As always, I appreciate your time. Is there anything else you want to say before I let you go?
No, over and out for today, pal.
Thank you. Make sure you subscribe, guys. Thank you.